Hey everybody, and welcome to the Silver Scream. My name is Tom, and today I'm with Grahm, as always.
Hello.
So, it's episode 1, and we've got our first movie to review.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Me too. So, our first movie, if you hadn't been able to tell by the title, was Creep. It is a movie from 2014, produced by Blumhouse, and it's pretty crazy. It's quite a low budget movie. It felt anyway. But,
I couldn't find anything on the budget. It was really kept under wraps, and I was looking for quite a while. It was directed by Patrick Bryce, and it was written by Patrick Bryce and Mike Duplass, and they are the two main actors in the movie.
Yeah, they were the only actors in the movie, save for the voicemail message, isn't that right?
Yeah, and then
Or the voice message, the person on the other side.
Yeah, she had, I'm blanking on her name, but she had worked with Mark Duplass before.
I didn't get her name for the actress, but her character was Angela. That's the only part I got from that.
Yeah.
It had a working title. The original title for the movie was actually Peach Fuzz, which we'll get into probably later on in the episode, but I think that Creep the reason they changed it was because they didn't want to take away people's feeling of the atmosphere of the movie. They didn't want people to be thinking too much about Peach Fuzz and what it had to do with the story, so it made sense that they changed it to Creep.
That, and also the character of Peach Fuzz doesn't come in until like 20-30 minutes into the movie, and the filmmakers didn't want to confuse the audience in those first opening minutes.
There were multiple endings that they actually filmed because most of the movie was actually improvised, which was really cool. I didn't realize that as well. I think most of the script was improvised as well. They sort of made it up as they went along.
Yeah, I'll get more into the process in a bit, but
sure.
Yeah, most of it was improvised. They had a general outline, like specific scenes or what they needed the story to progress to, and then they just improv based off of that.
I think one thing that I found really interesting was, I might be wrong, but I didn't detect any music, like non-diegetic sound. I didn't have any of that.
I didn't hear any either. If they did have music, it was really subtle.
Yeah, because I think there was a movie I watched, this is years ago now, but it was George A. Romero's Diary of the Dead. Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
It's not a good movie, but it's one of these kind of found footagey, shaky cam kind of horrors. But at the beginning of the movie, the lead actress has this commentary where she says that she adds music in for dramatic effect, and I just thought, what a cheap way to get around the fact that you couldn't build tension properly in your movie. I mean, I love George A. Romero, but I thought that was quite a cheap pull. And then when you watch a film like this, where the tension and the atmosphere is so well made without any kind of need for music and non-diegetic sound, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it seemed seemingly low budget, but it's a really highly rated movie. I kept seeing on Reddit forums and all over IMDb, tons of people raving about this movie. And people were just discovering it and saying, "Oh, this movie's great. I didn't realize it even existed." And I found it on Netflix, and other people, there were just comments of people saying, "Yeah, it's a really great, loved film, and it's a cult following now."
Yeah, I also saw it's pretty well regarded, but I did notice on Reddit there's a small group of people that weren't too thrilled with it, and I kind of see why. But
yeah,
I think the critical reception is pretty well warranted.
I've screenshotted a couple of reviews. I've got 2 10-star reviews, and I've got 1 1-star review. I mean, we can get into those later if you want, or I can read a couple of bits out now.
I think we should do that now.
Okay. I'll read out one of the 10-star ones. Okay, so it doesn't even have a username. It's from IMDb, but the title was "Loved It." In my opinion, this is a masterpiece. The movie is realistic, a situation people could actually get to. Of course, there are some times I thought Aaron made bad decisions and should have left while he could, But as stated in the film, Aaron was one special snowflake who always saw the best in people and who clearly needed the money. Maybe a friend as well? Creep is one of those horror movies you can't keep off your mind, and the ending is honestly one of the rawest, most genius endings I've ever seen. I love how the movie takes its time and nothing is rushed as they usually do in horror movies. The footage view and the incredibly creepy creep.
I think that's a pretty good summary of it.
Yeah, I think so. I've got some mixed feelings about how I feel about it. I mean, but that review. I mean,
yeah, I have some mixed feelings as well, but we'll save that for later.
I've got a 1-star review, but it actually contains spoilers, so I think I'm going to read that at the end if I remember.
All right.
So yeah, I'll let you take the lead on this, and we'll get straight into it, I guess.
All right. So I'm going to be going into some behind the scenes info. So this was Patrick Brice's first feature film, but he did do 3 short films before, including his student thesis for film school, where he went to Paris and did a documentary on one of the last adult theaters that still showed adult films in a 35mm format. His other feature films include The Overnight, which released around the same time so that they could build off of the success of each other. Then there's Creep 2 and Corporate Animals, which premiered at Sundance this year. Creep is the first in a trilogy. The second film was released in 2017, and the third one is currently in development. The movie was almost completely improvised, which we touched on earlier. The basic outline was drive a car and record the 2 actors talking during the trip, which they evolved since then. It was originally supposed to be called Peach Fuzz, but they thought it would be confusing, and the original film was shot in 6 days and was a dark comedy. They showed it to several friends, and the friends were not too thrilled with the dark comedy aspect, and they suggested it should be more of a horror movie. And so the director and writer, they thought about it for a couple weeks, and then they kind of leaned into it. They embraced it, and then they went back to film more scenes, but because Mark Duplass was filming the show The League at the time, they had some scheduling troubles, and so they ended up filming the rest of the movie over the course of a year with multiple endings and multiple reshoots. The movie premiered at South by Southwest in March of 2014, and then it was picked up by a distribution company, but that fell through. And then it was released on video on demand in June and released on Netflix of July of 2015.
Was it like quite a long gap between the movie's production and when it came out on DVD? Is that right?
Well, it was released on video on demand and then Netflix, but yeah, it was almost a year between that.
It's so crazy. Imagine having to wait that long for your movie to just like be shown to the wide audience like in such a way.
Yeah. I mean, they could have had it out sooner, but since it was picked up by, I believe it's Radius TWC, they had to wait for Radius to pull the trigger on the release. But then when that fell through, they kind of were left scrambling. And then they could have had it released in theaters, but they decided that the best thing for the movie was to release it on video on demand and Netflix, where they would still be able to make some money and not have it be a huge financial failure.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. I think Netflix is a good platform nowadays to put any movies. A lot of movies do go straight to Netflix now. Oh, I did get one because it was produced by Blumhouse. They had a lot of help from the founder of Blumhouse. I forget
Jason
his name.
Blum.
There you go. Apparently, he told them that he likes to have a jump scare every 10 minutes to keep the audience in the mood.
Well.
I mean, it's definitely present in the movie. We'll get into that later, but it didn't Yeah, I don't think it was used to a great effect in this film,
Yeah,
personally.
that was one of my biggest problems, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
That's all I had for behind the scenes.
Oh,
Did you
cool.
have anything
Okay.
else?
I don't think so. Um, no, as far as I can tell, I've pretty much said all the behind the scenes things that I wanted to say.
All right. I was going to go into more about the Blumhouse Studios model and compare it with box office information and the budget, but I couldn't find anything, so we'll have to save that for another Blumhouse film. I believe we
Okay.
have quite a few on the list.
I actually don't know anything about Blumhouse. I've like the name is familiar and it rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you a single Blumhouse movie other than this one.
Uh,
I might just quickly do a Google and
well,
find out.
I believe at least the first few Paranormal Activity movies were released by them. Um, Get Out
Oh
was released by
man.
them. More recently,
Oh,
there was Upgrade, Truth or Dare, uh,
there's some seriously good
Happy
movies made by
Death Day and Happy
Blumhouse.
Death
Oh
Day 2
man.
You. Yeah, they release a lot of horror movies.
Like some of my favorite horror movies are on here. This is insane. I've never really thought about it. It's not something I've really looked into as the producers, but yeah, good job, guys.
Yeah,
Damn.
they have a really interesting business model, but I'll save that for a later episode.
That'd be on the Blumhouse episode.
Yeah,
Okay. So do you want to get into the story? We'll sort of do like a rundown of the whole story.
yeah.
Okay. So the movie starts with Aaron, the main character, who we don't see a lot of because he's behind his camera most of the time, and we see everything through his camera lens. And he's driving in his car, and he doesn't know what he's about to get into. He's sort of self-monologuing to the camera about what might happen.
Yeah, a little opening
And
exposition.
yeah, pretty much. And it's just him heading towards this house to meet somebody. Uh, yeah, somebody he met online. I think I can't remember where he found the info. Did he say?
It was like a job posting.
Yeah, that's right. So when he gets to the house, he realizes that nobody's there. So he's kind of a bit taken aback, and then he spots an axe on a chopping block outside the house. So he decides to wait in his car, and yeah, he's sort of self-monologuing in the car. And then all of a sudden, Joseph jumps out on him, and that's jump scare number one. Um, Opinions on Joseph's entrance?
Uh, I I found it a little obnoxious at first, because I thought this was just like a very generic jump scare to scare the
Sure.
audience, and
I think
I was hoping that that was just like a one time event, but sadly I was mistaken.
in retrospect, this is like one of the better jump scares of the movie because it feels like something that like I could see myself doing in this kind of situation. Just, but maybe not to a stranger, to a friend who I knew.
It's a bit more natural, but like it was still pretty obnoxious in my opinion. But
Yeah. The one thing we notice about Joseph straight away is he's a hugger. He's not somebody that's uncomfortable in social situations. He seems happy to meet people, and he doesn't do handshakes. He just hugs the guy straight away and says, "By the end of the day, that's going to be the the most natural thing
yeah, he's a very
for us."
sociable, outgoing person.
Yeah. So they head into the house, and Joseph, um, he informs Aaron that he is a cancer survivor, but he now has a brain tumor and only has 2 months to live. And he says that his wife Angela is pregnant and is going to have a baby, and he wants to make a video for his wife and for his baby to know what he was like as a person, so that he doesn't grow up without any idea of who his father was. Which was, I thought, like quite a genuine moment in the movie. I was kind of I don't know, instantly kind of on board with him. I was like, oh, that sounds like a nice thing to do. Like, I would see myself doing something like that.
Yeah, I up until then I thought he was very creepy, pun intended. Um, but then I thought it was more. It gave his character more depth, and I knew that the movie was creep and it was a horror movie, so I was still a little bit on edge, and I was trying to discern whether this was true or not. Um,
Yeah.
but at the time, it felt really genuine and felt like a pretty good reason.
Yeah, it actually kind of put me a little bit at ease because I was, like you said, I was kind of, whenever I sit down to watch a horror movie, I kind of feel a bit sort of like tense, but kind of like in a good way. Like I'm anticipating things happening a lot, and hearing stuff like that, it kind of like settled me into the movie a bit. I felt like I could relax a little more.
Yeah, there was the
He said,
axe, which I thought was going to be reincorporated right away. And then there was
yeah,
the jump scare, and I was already on edge, but that really helped settle things down.
yeah. So it gets really awkward and creepy straight away because Joseph goes straight to the bathroom and,
uh,
and
that
he's just it's so
that
weird.
part
It's so
I felt was still kind of like a remainder of the Peach Fuzz dark comedy, because I didn't think that was like really scary or creepy. I was just sitting there like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, this is just so weird.
So, for context, he sat in the bath giving a newborn baby a bath, but the newborn baby's not there, so he's just pretending that there's a baby, and it wasn't creepy, it was just so uncomfortable. Like, I felt like I was intruding on this guy too much. Like, yeah, it felt
Yeah,
weird.
and if I remember correctly, Aaron even said something about that. Um, he's like, do you want me to come back? And Joseph is like, no, 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 it's fine.
The one thing I did kind of get after a while, because it goes on for a while, that scene is like a good minute, maybe 2 minutes long, of him playing with this imaginary baby. And like it felt kind of sad given the context that we were just given in the scene before. Like it made me kind of sad for him. I was, especially when he becomes self-aware.
Yeah, it was pretty morbid and kind of depressing. Like, I thought it was just going to be like a video diary, but then it was he was doing these things that he would have done with him, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah. So he becomes self-aware and he says, I could do it. I could end it right now. I could just go. And then he just sinks under the water in the bath and just stays there for quite a while
it's
actually,
like a
and
good
like
10 seconds.
long enough that Aaron kind of has to like he gets uncomfortable and he has to stand up and go to save him, and then and then he just jumps straight out the water at him and makes him jump. Second jump scare, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Hated it. I really hated that.
In the grand scheme of things, that one wasn't as memorable. I remember the scene leading up to that, but like until you just reminded me, I didn't remember a jump scare.
I feel like it wouldn't have been a jump scare if it weren't for the fact that there were two people screaming at the same time. Like I feel like the loud noise was the jump scare rather than the action that they were participating in.
Yeah.
It was, and then he kind of Joseph says, "Oh, it was just meant to be a joke. I'm trying to lighten the mood. It felt a bit tense in here. I kind of wanted to loosen things up." So yeah, weird. So he sends Aaron downstairs to get a jacket because they said they want to go out because he was a bit weirded out by that whole experience. So they said, "Let's go out." So Aaron goes downstairs and he opens a closet or pulls back a curtain, and he sees Peach Fuzz, and we instantly get another jump scare.
That was the jump scare that I disliked the most. It wasn't even like Joseph jumping out like the various other times, or like something falling. He just moves aside some coats, and then there's just a mask, and then he screams. Like,
Yeah, like in what situation would that happen to you? I mean, I couldn't imagine like anything like that just scaring me just from seeing a mask.
yeah,
Like
I
you see,
probably will have just gone, oh, that's a creepy mask.
yeah. So Joseph runs downstairs and he says, "Oh, that's Peach Fuzz. It's a happy wolf that my dad used to wear." And then he puts it on and he starts dancing, and it's weird. It's creepy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep saying creepy, and it's gonna be punny and gross, but
Y-
it's like
yeah,
perfect.
when I was taking notes, like, there's a good 20 times where I use the word either creepy or creep, and I hate using it, but, like, it describes the situation, and Joseph, he seems like a normal guy, but he's just off, and for quite a while we can't tell why he's off.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. It's aptly named, I think.
yeah, it gives a general sense of unease.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think that's just it. It's the over friendliness of Joseph and kind of just the way that he interacts with people that like is real, because we've met people like that in our lives, I'm sure. Like not exactly like him, but there are people that you meet that are just like a little desperate and a little much, and you kind of feel like you've been in Aaron's shoes before.
Yeah, I can name like 3 people who I know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could as well. Okay, so in the next scene, they're in the car and they're looking for the miracle waters of the heart, which is a healing spring in the middle of the woods. So they go walking in the woods, and Joseph thinks he sees something, and he just takes off down the path. He like sprints, doesn't he?
Yep, and it leads to another very obvious jump scare.
Yep, really obvious jump scare. You know it's going to happen, and you're kind of like, well, this is that part in the movie where they kind of, they go against your expectations and they kind of twist you a bit, and then they put a jump scare somewhere else. But no, it's just as obvious as you would imagine.
Yeah, I was hoping that Aaron would not follow him or they would do something more with it, but no, he follows him and he jumps out and scares him.
Yeah, and Joseph says it's like a near-death experience, and there was a 2 seconds where it looked like he wanted to kill Joseph, Aaron.
I like the reincorporation of that later into the movie. We'll discuss that further, but I think that was a good like little planting of a seed that will come back later.
Yeah, I think so. And there's the little quote that he says is, "There's a little peach fuzz inside of you," which, yeah,
that's an unnerving line.
Especially because he had just said that Peach Fuzz was a friendly character that his dad created to be, friendly and a nice animal. Why would he suddenly bring that up now when he said it looked like he wanted to kill him?
Yeah, it helped really establish and really cement that general sense of unease. Like before, it had been present, but it was like a light mist. But like after that scene, it became more of like a heavy fog where it was very clear that it was present.
Yeah, that was a red flag for me. That was when I was like, okay, if this was me in this situation, I would feel instantly uncomfortable, because I just started thinking about it from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they get lost. They keep walking down the path, and then Aaron says to Joseph, maybe we should head back soon. Do you even know how to get back? And he says, no, I have no idea. But we got to move forward. We can't go back. We've got to keep going in the positive direction. And they find the heart spring somehow. And I feel like, looking back now, Joseph knew exactly where he was and where he was going.
Oh, yeah.
He has definitely brought other people to this spot, like, surely.
Yeah, when we actually see the Miracle Rock, I don't know if you picked up on this, but I kind of thought it looked like a skull, and
Do you know what? That's what I saw at first as well. I didn't even see the heart at first. I was like, "What are we looking at here?" I was like, I just thought it was a big skull, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, the heart."
yeah, like the nose of the skeleton, well, the skull was like the heart, and I was like, I don't know if they planned that intentionally or if that was just a side effect, but I thought that was pretty efficient use of scenery.
Yeah, it really was. I thought the forest was a really good piece of scenery anyway, because the lighting was so natural in the filming as well that it just created the perfect atmosphere. I liked it personally because especially if it was a low budget movie, they didn't need to sort of spend a lot of money on professional lighting because they had this great outdoor space to use, you know?
With the wood setting, I personally thought it reminded me of home movies that me and my friends would make in the woods. Like, we'd make really dumb horror movies in a nearby forest.
Yeah.
In the movie, feels like that, but like there's more direction to it.
Did you say you used to make horror movies in the forest?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
they're terrible.
That's kind of the fun of it, though, right?
Yeah, they're not going to any festivals or anything, but we would have like screenings with our friends.
So they were actual full length movies, like you planned and you scripted, and
Like 20 to 30 minutes.
that's so cool.
And
I've never done anything
it
like
had
that.
like a $20-$30 budget. Um, I used like free editing software, and it took me forever. Yeah, I
That's so cool.
it was a good learning experience of what not to do, but
So when I was in college, I did a year of media studies, and I didn't learn particularly crazy amounts, but I did have to do like a horror trailer. So somewhere on my computer, it's in an MOV file, which I didn't even realize was a thing, and I can't play it for some reason, but I've still got the file. So I'm gonna have to find a way to sort of change that and make it into an MP4 format so I can actually watch it. But yeah, it's probably awful. I haven't seen it in years. So we should trade sometime. I definitely want to watch one of your movies now that I know that you've got movies out there.
All right, we'll have to do that sometime.
I'd be totally up for that. Okay. So they find the heart spring, which we said, and there's this nice kind of scene actually with Joseph and Aaron bonding. Like, it looks like they put the camera down and they both just kind of hang out at the heart spring. There's a lot of hugging. Like, yeah, Joseph's like really into hugging.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a sweet moment, like, because like Aaron was kind of letting him be that person, and yeah, it was a good moment. I thought I liked it.
That scene kind of reminded me of, well, like Aaron's behavior in particular. Kind of, he seemed like a therapy dog almost, like someone who was there to support this other person. It might not have been in their best interest, but they stuck around anyways.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, like, I'm sure if it was like really his choice, he wouldn't have been there, but you know, he was there and he was happy to help.
Yeah.
So the one thing, the next scene, they're going out for pancakes. But how did they find the way out? I thought they were lost. Like, you never see any of that. It just cuts, like, all of a sudden.
I assume that Joseph knew his way out the whole time, and he was just trying to push Aaron on further to get to the location that he knew of prior.
Sure. I like to think in my head that there was that scene and they just cut it because it was irrelevant to the story.
Yeah,
It seemed a little weird that they've documented so much of the movie and then they kind of just skipped out the one part where they said they were lost and suddenly they were out.
Yeah, I do kind of want to see the scene where they're just like scrambling around in the woods for like 2 hours trying to find their way back. But
it would have been a whole different movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they're in this restaurant and Joseph says that he knows this place really well and it's one of those places that he goes to all the time. And then he's looking at the menu like he doesn't know anything on it.
Yeah.
He's like, you have to try the pancakes. The pancakes are the best thing here. And then he's there looking at the menu, and Aaron's like, well, are you not going to get the pancakes then? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll get the pancakes.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, another little warning flag was going off in my head at that point as well.
I don't know if you noticed this, but in the background of the diner, I didn't see anyone, whether it was out the window or in the back room of the diner. And I really like that choice. I thought it helped establish how alienated and intimate the characters were.
I never noticed that actually, but now you say it, yeah, it kind of makes sense because you don't see anyone else in the whole movie at all, do you?
Yeah.
It makes it quite an isolated experience, like you said. Yeah, that's really interesting. Is there any point where they're interacting with waiters or anything? I can't remember. I feel like there was, but there probably wasn't.
No, they talk about what they're gonna eat, but like they don't talk to like a waiter or waitress. The only other person that we know of is it Julie or Andrea? The
Angela.
Angela, that's what it is.
Yeah,
but otherwise,
the wife.
Yeah, we don't know of anyone else.
So Joseph asks Aaron if he's ever done anything that he's really ashamed of, and he takes the camera and points it at Aaron, and Aaron tells the story that he used to have terrible problems as a child, that he couldn't control himself and he kept peeing himself all the time. Which, like, it seems kind of irrelevant to the plot, but it kind of comes back around later, I think.
I don't remember if it does. I just thought it was just some character building.
Yeah, it was like a good moment for him to make himself feel, to make himself vulnerable to Joseph. But anyway, they switch, and Joseph tells Aaron that he has been watching him and was taking pictures of him behind his back. And he shows him a picture of him he shows him a picture of Aaron waiting by his car, then sat in his car before he jumped up and jump scared him. And he says that he really regrets what he did, but he hopes that he can move past it.
I thought his reasoning why he took the photo. Well, originally the fact that he took the photos was pretty creepy, but his reasoning behind it, I thought, was a bit more logical, I guess.
What was it again?
He didn't know this person, and he was kind of second guessing this. It was, and he said it was a way of getting to know Aaron before Aaron got to know Joseph.
Sure. I mean, I get it, but that was I would have been a bit weirded out if somebody had done that to me.
I mean, it was a bit more excusable than just, oh, hey, I like taking pictures of you.
Yeah, definitely. So they kind of move past it, but Aaron's definitely not feeling sure about this anymore, because when they get back to the house, Aaron wants to take off straight away. He doesn't want to stick around. Like, he's ready to move out. He's getting out of there. But he gets persuaded by Joseph to have just one drink. So that's what they have. They have a drink together. I don't know if there was anything particularly, at the beginning of their first drink that was worth discussing.
No, but after what is assumed to be their second or third drinks, Joseph, he starts talking. He says some pretty interesting things.
Yeah, so he tells them to turn off the camera so they can have a story, because it's not meant for Buddy. Buddy, by the way, is the name of his child that they decide they're going to call it. So he turns off the video, but he doesn't turn off the audio. So there was this interesting moment where you were just listening rather than watching. That was I quite liked that that choice, to be honest. It meant that you were really focusing on what he was saying. But what he was saying was really hard to hear. So Peach Fuzz, the mask, was not actually his dad's, but it was his. After he discovered that his wife was watching animal porn, and he goes out. He pretends he goes away for a weekend, but really he goes to a shop and he buys this Peach Fuzz mask and he puts it on and breaks into his house and rapes his wife.
Yeah, I liked the choice of only having the audio, so most of the conversation was left up to your imagination, like what it looked like. But this established a lot, and when he started telling the story, that's when I'm like, oh, he's lying. He has to be. It just seems it. I don't know how to describe it. It was very unsettling, and it led to an unreliable narrator, I guess. I didn't trust him.
No, I didn't either. It felt weird, but it gets. I mean, we'll come back to this. We'll circle back around at some point, but basically, Aaron kind of freaks the fuck out, and he tries to leave. Like he gets quite panicky because he can't find his keys. Yeah, and this is when warning shots are just going off in his head. He's like, I need to get out of this situation right now because this is dangerous.
Yeah.
So he can't find his keys, and Joseph tells him that they won't ever be able to find the keys while it's still dark. So he makes them stay the night. He tells them that you can't leave. You have to stay here the night now. So Aaron kind of concedes, and he goes to pour them another drink, and you see him in the background slip something into Joseph's drink. I don't know what it was exactly, but it was obviously something like a sleeping pill or something that, when combined with alcohol, would knock somebody out, because Joseph passes out.
Yeah, and then when Joseph is passed out, he is trying to find Aaron is trying to find his car keys on Joseph's person, and Joseph's phone rings, and he picks it up.
Yeah, so he goes into the bathroom, and it's Angela on the phone, but you find out that Angela actually is not his wife, but is his sister. And she tells him that he is in danger and that Joseph is quite disturbed and that he needs to leave right now. He needs to just walk out without his car. It doesn't matter. Just get out and get away from that situation. So, first thing I was thinking, because this was following on from a scene where he says he raped his wife. Like, what's the story now?
After that happened, I almost immediately was like, oh, yep, that confirms what I was thinking. And then while he's in the bathroom, he's like whispering, but really loud. I'm like, this seems like he'd be found out. And when eventually he leaves, we notice that Joseph isn't there. And I like to believe that's just because he was loud whispering. Could be he's just a creep, but
but one thing that the camera part that I didn't like at that moment, he walks out the bathroom and he looks at where Joseph was, and then he looks away, and then he darts back straight away, and you just kind of think, I don't think I would be looking. It's like he was looking through his camera the whole time, and he wasn't just holding his camera. Did you get that impression? Like, it was really weird how they made the camera jump back. I mean, you had to show the movie, but I thought that was a weird choice.
Yeah, I mean, suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a deal for me. Like, reality versus the movie's reality are completely different. I'm pretty sure almost anyone would have left this situation almost immediately, but...
Yeah. So he goes out onto the balcony, and Joseph jumps out and scares him. So another jump scare.
Yep.
So there's this weird scene where he's really up close to him as well, and he's talking about how he's scared. But then Aaron tells him that he can help him and that he spoke to Angela. And as soon as he even begins to mention Angela, Joseph just runs.
He just bolts.
Out. He completely bolts. At this point, I was like, okay, now get out. Now get out. What I didn't realize was you had to go down the stairs to get out. So
I thought that there was stairs on that porch.
why didn't he just go then?
Well, if there was stairs on the porch, then I believe he was still trying to help out Joseph. But
Yeah, sure.
if there wasn't, then that could be the only way out. But I was thinking there were stairs on that balcony, but then when he had to go downstairs, he was telling Joseph that he just wanted to leave, which made me think, oh, there wasn't stairs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he changed his mind because when he goes down the stairs, Joseph is blocking the door and wearing his peach fuzz mask all of a sudden.
that was pretty creepy.
Yeah, that was the creepiest part because I did watch the trailer before I watched the movie, and that was the only part of the trailer that I thought actually was scary.
I didn't watch the trailer before that, so I didn't know that was coming.
Yeah, like I saw just that clip of him as Peach Fuzz, and there was no audio. You could just see Peach Fuzz, and then suddenly the big scene where he rushes him, and that was it. And I remember thinking that was pretty creepy. But yeah, so yeah, he just wants to leave, and he won't let him leave basically. And he starts growling, like a wolf growl, and Joseph just gets scared and just runs. Is it him that runs, or is it Joseph that runs?
I think they both did. It was really hard to tell because
it happened fast.
Yeah, the cam was shaking everywhere, and then it just kind of cut out.
Yeah, I think so too. So before we move on to the next scene, I need to get this out of my system now because I just can't stop thinking about it. This rape story that he was telling, what was that? What did that have to do with anything? Because in the next scene, it turns out he doesn't have a wife. So why did he tell this story to begin with? Is he just like a delusional, like a liar? Like he just wanted to tell a weird story to creep him out, or was it something else?
I think he's just completely psychotic. I think in his own rationale, he was trying to like level with Aaron and try to be like more of a down to earth human, but it had like the opposite effect.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, because what came to my head that was quite morbid, but I hope it isn't the truth, is that it was his sister that he was talking about.
I'm not sure if it was his sister. I think that when he was talking about his bandwidth or whatever was being taken up, and he found all the animal stuff. I personally assumed that it was him who was watching it and was trying to lay the blame elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it.
But I kind of think he either did that story to his sister or maybe someone else. It seemed like it was too detailed oriented and like too emotional to be kind of like made up on the spot.
Yeah. I think it's just the only reason I think is his sister is because they have the same name. His wife was Angela and his sister is Angela, and it just, yeah, I mean, it was obviously meant to play on your mind a little bit, but it really played on my mind.
Yeah.
For pretty much the rest of the movie. I'm still awkward now because they're not knowing, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, we're never going to find out. So
well, it might be in the sequel.
True. Yeah, that is a thing that will have to come up at some point one day. Okay, so a short amount of time has passed in the next scene. Aaron is at home now, so I don't know how much time had passed. I don't think he said.
Before that, we just see the camera sitting on like a log or a stump, and we see Joseph dragging garbage bags behind him. And my initial instinct was, I liked how they dealt with Aaron's death. They didn't like drag it out and show this huge, big, gory death scene. I was like, oh, that was pretty neat. And then Aaron starts talking, and then he explains the situation. I'm like, All right,
Yeah,
that's pretty good because I didn't like feel time passing that much, and I just assumed that was the natural conclusion to the movie.
yeah, I know what you mean. I was kind of, I think I actually checked the timestamp at that point. I was like, where are we in this movie? And then I was like, oh, how are they going to carry on this movie knowing that Aaron's dead now? Like, that was my initial reaction, actually.
Yeah, I thought it would have been Joseph doing like video diaries until like the cops caught up with him or something. But
That would have been interesting, actually.
yeah, I hope we see more of Joseph's perspective in the second movie. But
Yeah, me too. I hope so. But basically, Aaron is at home and he's received a DVD in the mail from Joseph. And it is, yeah, Joseph dragging these bags up on the hill and burying them. Uh, I didn't get why he just didn't call the police at this point and show them the video and say, look, this man's out to get me.
well,
He sent me this very creepy video.
I mean, there wasn't much he could do at that point. It's just a creepy video. It's not like
Yeah,
they could have like just gotten a restraining order based on off of that.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it just, I guess it speaks to no, not Joseph, to Aaron's character that he didn't go to the police. I guess because he's someone that likes to help. You can tell that he's somebody that just he wanted to help Joseph,
Yeah,
and he didn't, and he obviously thought the police weren't going to help. But he does admit to having a strange nightmare that he's sat in the hot spring with Joseph. And Joseph's wearing the mask, and he's wearing a baby mask. Do you remember this part?
yeah.
He like has. I didn't know what that was. You know what that had to do with anything, so I kind of didn't write about it because I didn't really know what to say about it. But I didn't know if maybe you had some kind of take on
I
his
was
dream.
kind of hoping that that Joseph was listening in on that. He was going to try to use that to scare Aaron, but
Yeah, like leaving the baby mask somewhere.
yeah, or like
That would have been cool. I didn't know really what it had to do with the movie, but it was kind of like an interesting thing to sort of include.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, the next day, Aaron receives another package. It's a big box this time, with a knife, a DVD, and a stuffed wolf. So he puts the DVD in, and Joseph explains. I forget exactly what he explains. He's talking about the wolf, isn't he, and how they want to love, but they love too much.
And sometimes they tear apart what they love.
Yeah, that's right. And did you notice that from pretty much here on out, he starts referring to Aaron as Buddy?
I did not.
Yeah, so he starts calling him the baby name.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. I really didn't notice that.
Yeah, in the DVD that he sends him, he just keeps saying Buddy. He doesn't say Aaron anymore.
Well, I guess I heard it in a moment and it just didn't click with me. Oh, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I guess now it kind of goes quite well with this whole story about the baby mask as well, because now it kind of has a tie-in a way.
Yeah.
So he tells him that there's something inside the stuffed wolf, and inside is a locket, and with a picture of the two of them inside it. So Aaron's pretty creeped out. Obviously, he throws it in the bin and gets rid of everything. And that evening, Joseph is stalking him in his house. There's that really good scene where he's kind of watching him. The camera's set up in the bedroom, and you can see through to the front door, and you can see Joseph at the front door.
Oh, yeah. So before that happened, Aaron wakes up again and he's talking about his nightmare again.
Oh, that's
and then
right.
he hears kind of like a bang, like a little creak. Doesn't mind it too much. Like he kind of pauses, but then he keeps on going on. But then after like 10, 20 seconds, he hears a loud thud. So
Yeah.
he walks out, he starts turning on all the lights. He says, turn on all the lights. He's trying to find all the lights, which I think is a smart idea. And I'm glad.
It's the idea that people would be screaming at the TV to do if he hadn't done
Yep.
it. That's for sure.
And as he's walking around, he's kind of standing there, and then he walks out of the door frame, and then we see Joseph at the door, and oh boy, that was a pretty effective scare. I really like that.
Yeah, actually, I forgot about that beginning bit with the banging as well. That is a scary scene. I that actually did make me feel quite sort of nervous when he heard the loud banging and he had to go and turn the lights on and find out. But yeah, that was creepy with him at the door, just sort of standing there. Yeah,
that was the type of scare I wish they had more of in this movie, where it's not like a big jump scare. It's more of just a subtle, like something's there in frame.
It's an atmosphere.
Yes.
It's so clever. I don't want to go too much off topic, but like, have you seen the film The Babadook?
I have not. It's on the list, but
okay, so yeah, it's a good movie, but that film, there's a few big jump scares, but for the most part, like I'd say 90% of the horror of that movie is just the tension and the ambience and just the atmosphere that builds from the horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but like the main ghost or the apparition, it doesn't just appear; it like slowly fades in like such a creepy way that like after I watched it with some buddies, I used to just creep them out by kind of pretending I was doing a Babadook, and I would just kind of like glide into the room, or like is the way that it was just really clever. We'll get to it properly one day, but
yeah. And then Aaron goes outside and he chases after what he thinks is Aaron. Joseph.
Yeah.
And then he goes in the backyard, and then the scene ends.
Yeah, he thinks it's raccoons, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, the trash can's knocked over, and then there's a whole bunch of garbage, which leads to Joseph finding the locket, and then...
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so then the next day...
Oh, sorry, I wanted to quickly go, because it's in that same evening, Joseph goes back to sleep, and... Aaron goes back to sleep, and Joseph has the camera in his hands. He's in his house at this point, and he's watching him sleep. And this is what I wanted to bring up earlier. Did you notice that Aaron had peed the bed?
I did not.
Yeah. Okay, that's something that like I didn't notice until the second time around. First time around, I didn't notice it because I think I was looking everywhere else. But yeah, like it came back round to that. Like he was talking about his childhood, but maybe he's still that part of him is still retained, and maybe that's part of his character. I don't know.
I didn't notice it, but based off of what I know, I assume that he's going through this like traumatic event, and so he's kind of regressing to this like scared childlike state because he tried calling the cops and they couldn't help him, and he's on his own and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that was kind of the point I was trying to get across, but yeah, it was better put. Yeah, he's kind of reverting back to an almost childlike state of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So that scene ends with Joseph cutting off a lock of his hair.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying about the next day?
The next day, he gets... Aaron finds that his window, like the mesh screen, was cut, and there was a DVD, and wasn't on the DVD, it said the last one.
It said my last video.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So he watches it, and then Joseph explains that he realized what he did is wrong, and He wants to reconcile with Aaron, and that he would be
Yeah.
meeting him in a public park, so that they could
He
talk it out.
says to him, he holds up the locket, doesn't he? And he says, I was pretty hurt by this, but you drugged me, so we're even now.
Yeah,
Which I never really realized that he knew he got drugged as well, so that was kind of like a creepy moment as well. Like, imagine, like, being in that situation that you're like, oh man, maybe this is why he's after me.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. So he says that he's got problems and that he just needs a friend. So he asks Aaron to meet him in a public place.
All right. So then he gets to the park and he leaves his camera in the car recording the bench, and he walks off and he sits down at the bench, and then we see Joseph walk up behind him in a, well, should we state spoilers?
I mean, I think if you've got this far, you've probably seen the movie, or you don't mind about being spoiled.
Yeah,
so
we've kind of spoiled a lot, but so Joseph shows up in a trench coat, and he's just staring at Aaron for a bit, and then
yeah, like a long time. It felt like this was a long scene.
yeah, and then he puts on the Peach Fuzz mask, and I thought he was going to scare him again, but then he pulls out the axe from earlier as kind of like
That's
a
right.
Chekhov's gun scenario.
Yeah.
And he kills Aaron. I really like that scene.
Clean hit.
There wasn't dialogue.
What?
It was well shot. Great one take. Great atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure.
And they didn't have like this big reaction from Aaron. Like, it was just like this one chop and it's done.
Yeah, it was like a real clean hit. He just got him in one.
Yeah, and then Joseph starts talking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then he's explaining that Aaron was his favorite, and until the end, Aaron trusted Joseph and believed he wouldn't harm him, and that's why he was his favorite. He had complete faith in Joseph until the very end, and you're kind of wondering what he's talking about. And then there's another jump scare where Joseph jump scares the camera.
That's right, yeah.
And Joseph in the video is screaming, and then real Joseph is screaming watching the video. I didn't like that.
No, I didn't. I thought super cheap. Super cheap. But yeah, it kind of like Blum said, like it just keeps people in the mood. I guess it kind of brought the mood back up.
It took me out of the mood, to be completely honest, but and then Joseph takes the video, he's talking, and he walks into a room, opens up a cabinet, and you see, like, I want to say a good 100
There's a lot in
videos
there.
with different names on them, and he slides in Aaron's tape among them, and then the movie ends.
Yeah, that was a creepy ending. Really creepy. He's talking to someone on the phone as well, and he's using a new name, Bob.
He's talking to what's presumably his next victim.
Yeah, really creepy.
Oh yeah, I really like that ending. I thought it was really effective. It was probably my favorite part, besides that final jump scare. But
I think it keeps you thinking as well. It's one of those endings that doesn't just end. It it feels like it's continuing. And you've just seen just like a really small snippet of this person's life.
Yeah, my exact words after I watched it was, "Oh shit! Now I gotta watch the second one."
Yeah, me too. Oh, I said the wrong name, by the way. It wasn't Bob, it was Bill, the name that you said at the end. I know that doesn't really matter, but yeah, just in case people were like angry fans, just like, hey, get it right.
um.
uh,
So, do you want to talk about your general thoughts of the movie?
yeah, sure. Do you want me to read this 1-star review before I forget?
Yeah.
Now that we've got to the end. Okay, so it says, I went through 14 good reviews before coming upon the first reviewer who didn't like this movie. We watched it because it had a 6.2 rating. Viewers don't seem to allow much room for good movies when they continue to give mediocre films such high reviews. This movie was painful to watch, and we realised within about 10 minutes. We wanted to see how it would end because of the implications that there were twists. The first big problem is there's no build-up of suspense. The creep starts out immediately as a weirdo who made me feel uneasy. He was difficult to listen to. Both of us viewing this wanted to escape from him, but saw it through to the end. I don't understand reviewers who say he started as a nice guy. There are red flags all over the place that he was an oddball. I also don't understand the reviewers who are indicating there is some kind of twist and that the movie doesn't go where you're thinking it going. It goes exactly where you think it's going. The cameraman, who is a person who doesn't listen to that inner voice warning him, even of Dodge when he has a good opportunity. He also tries to be compassionate at the end. This just wasn't a very good movie. It isn't because it's found footage that I didn't like it. It's because the story is poorly done. I stopped the movie several times to see how much longer it would go on. Always a bad sign. I like a good thriller or horror movie, but this gave me an uncomfortable feeling rather than scare me. I couldn't wait to stop listening to the creep.
I do agree with some of his critiques. The story really at times felt really incoherent. Like,
yeah,
it felt like it was improv. Like when they're walking through the woods trying to make it to the Miracle Rock. Like, yeah, eventually it ends up having a meaning to the story, but like it just feels really inconsequential.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, I guess.
Um,
But I think for the reasons he didn't like the movie are kind of reasons why I did like it. If you know what I mean, like he's saying like all these things about how like it didn't go with his expectation, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, and it's like, yeah, because he was a nice person. I suppose the more you talk about it, like we have now for quite some time, like the more I kind of understand Aaron as a character.
yeah, I do think Aaron's character was supposed to be like this warm, kind person, but at the same time, at some point, like, you gotta just get out of there. Like, it's...
But to me, he wasn't just a warm, kind person. He was a naive, vulnerable child.
Um, I could see that.
That's kind of where I'm at right now with my thinking. That it was kind of he was being played all along. It was out of his hands. Like he was trying to take control, but he was like a child being led by a parent almost.
Or a wolf in sheep's clothing, one could say.
Ooh. So overall, I've given this movie a 6 out of 10. I don't know if you've given it an on 10 score
I
or...
gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
So we're pretty similar on our opinion for this movie.
Yeah, I thought that the jump scares were completely unneeded.
They kind of took away from this movie.
They took me out of the movie every single time they happened. Really obnoxious. I wish it was more of an atmospheric horror thriller, but otherwise,
Yeah.
I really liked it. The atmosphere was great. The cinematography for found footage was pretty good. Like there was the shot from the trailers when it's nighttime and they're walking back up the steps to the cabin, and then Joseph turns around and then the light's behind him, and so his entire face and body's cast in a shadow.
Yeah.
Like that was
yeah.
so unnerving, and that was such a great efficient use of lighting. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I did as well.
I thought the acting from Mike Duplass,
Yeah, Mark
Mark.
Duplass. I was about to say was amazing. Yeah,
Aaron was just kind of but like
he was
he's the
fine. Yeah,
director.
yeah, exactly. He did the other hard work. So I mean,
But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it.
I did as well. There was a movie that the director Patrick Bryce was part of. I was looking through his sort of credentials during he was under miscellaneous crew. He was in a movie called Pig Hunt, made in 2008. You heard of Pig
I
Hunt?
have not. I'm looking it up.
Just look, it looks
Oh my
ridiculous, and I kind of
god!
want to watch this movie because it looks so bad. I can't wait to find
When
this.
John takes his San Francisco friends to his deceased uncle's remote ranch to hunt wild pigs, it seems that the typical guys' weekend with guns, despite John's sexy girlfriend Brooks, it seems like a typical guy's weekend. But as John and his crew trek deeper into the woods, they begin tracking the awful truth about his uncle's demise and the legend of the Ripper, a murderous 3,000-pound black boar.
It just sounds ridiculous. The whole movie, like,
oh, apparently it's a weed farm.
yeah.
Oh my god, this sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like Jaws, but with a big pig, and
And really bad.
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna vote that we add that to the list.
Yeah,
Just for Patrick Bryce, why not?
yeah.
For miscellaneous crewman Patrick Bryce.
Alright.
Yeah, so I feel like if it weren't for Mark Duplass, it wouldn't have been the film that it was. I think his portrayal of Joseph was so unnerving and real that the film would not have been the same. I think especially if you'd used a more well-known actor.
Yeah.
Personally.
I mean, he's kind of like a D-list celebrity.
It was really
but like,
atmospheric.
Yeah, I think that his obscurity really aided in his performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was Creep, I guess. Unless there's anything else you want to add. I feel like I've said all that I wanted to say, though.
So do I.
Okay, so do you want to check out the next movie? Let's find out what we're going to be doing next.
All right.
I'm excited.
So it's spinning. Next we have Phantasm.
What is Phantasm?
It's a cult hit from... Give me a sec. 1979.
Sure. Oh, wow. Okay, we're going back in time. Okay.
Yep. A teenage boy and his friends face off against a mysterious grave robber known only as the Tall Man, who keeps a lethal arsenal of terrible weapons with him. I have not seen this yet, but
no?
I do own it.
Okay. I don't know if it's on Netflix. How do you spell it? Is it How I Imagine, or is it a PH?
PH.
Okay. I'm going to check that now, see if it's on Netflix. I've got Shudder. It might be on Shudder.
Yeah, I think it's on Shudder.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, there are quite a few sequels. I think there are 4 or 5.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is a hell of a franchise we've just kind of stumbled upon.
Yeah. So...
Okay, I'm excited. I've never heard of this movie, but I've just looked at when it came out. Yeah, you said 1979. My favorite sort of old horror movie is Dawn of the Dead, and that was 1978. So I'm getting into that kind of that mindset of that kind of movie. So hopefully that should kind of aid my enjoyment of this movie.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it.
Okay, so let's get on with that movie, I guess. I'm going to watch that tonight, maybe? I don't know, it's a bit late. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow. Yeah. I get excited. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you did, please let us know. Send us an email. Or tweet at us, actually, at Silver Screamcast. So you let us know what you thought of Creep, I guess. I mean, we'll get better at this.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a little rusty, but yeah, we've got a Twitter, and I'd love to hear from you guys.
Also, send us suggestions of movies you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's everything.
Great. So, by the time you guys are hearing this, this episode will be up, and so will the Phantasm episode. So, I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, please let us know. Great. So, this was awesome. Thanks so much, Grahm.
Did we stop recording?
Oh, no, not yet. I'm still on.
Oh, all right.
I was just doing like a sign off.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom.
Great. And I'll catch up with you pretty soon, I guess. We'll get on with this.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.